What's going on, everyone? This is Superior Bryce 98 here. We're back with episode 2. We actually rebranded the podcast to the multicast instead of the xdepodcast. So moving forward, it's going to be called the multicast. And here I got the host. Obviously, his name is
JBrown03.
And today we're going to be talking about just like the end of X Defiant and the more recently released Splitgate 2. So, Jaden, I'll let you take the floor on X Defiant one last time. So, what are your thoughts after it being shut down?
I really speechless. A lot of people were happy that it shut down, and a lot of people said that it deserved to be shut down, or so much for the COD killer. To me, it was more down the players. It didn't have to do with anything, but what happened was they took the game down because it was majority because of those guys. And from the first podcast, I said that it was targeted towards the wrong audience. And when I say that, it majority has to do with something with the type of players that it's going after. So the guys who say, it was the COD killer, it was never marketed as the COD killer. So that's something that I said from the first podcast. Or Bryce, did you say it?
I did, yeah.
So that was something you said that I wanted to check away. And yeah. So I'll have Bryce say something because I'm trying to figure out what is actually wrong with it.
I mean, this was inevitable, right? I mean, I knew it was going to shut down before they even announced it being shut down, because the fact that, I always say this, I said it in the last podcast, they overpromised and underdelivered. You know, they couldn't figure out the whole camera situation with Search and Destroy. That's why they were so reluctant to add Search and Destroy onto it, because they couldn't figure out, you know, like the camera feature to where if you die in Search and Destroy and you're watching the players that are still alive, you know, they couldn't figure out how to implement that technology into the game. So I knew, like, the fact that they couldn't implement that, and then they promised all these changes, and then, you know, they have delays, and then, you know, it'll just come out like weeks or even months later, and then they're just behind. You know, there's just too many like scheduling conflicts, and, you know, the fact that they overpromised and underdelivered was a huge issue. And then, you know, they lost their player base, and then they also said they said something like, if they don't have enough players by this date, then they'll have to shut down, and that's exactly what happened. You know, they couldn't retain their player base from when the game launched. So I knew this was going to happen. Sad to say, you know, it was pretty inevitable. You know, they couldn't really keep their head above water in a situation like this, where, you know, a lot of live servers games are very competitive, and you know, they just couldn't compete. You know, just as simple as that. I mean, I don't really have much to say about the game other than that. I mean, I had fun with the game for what it was when it came out, but honestly, even if it was still on, I wouldn't see myself playing it, because when they announced that the game was getting shut down, I didn't play the game after that. You know, I didn't want to go back to it and be like, you know, let's go back to X Defiant before it shut down. You know, I didn't have that type of
You didn't have that type of nostalgia.
Not even nostalgia, but I wasn't really like motivated to play the game again, because there was other things coming out like Splitgate 2, which we'll talk about in a couple of moments. But, you know, that's all I got to say about X Defiant.
It's not that they... Okay, so... Let me take over the mic for a second. It's not that they overpromise and underdeliver. It's that they're having so... Okay, number one, it's a small team. So, it's so much you could do with a small team. But you could make the same argument and say that, Splitgate 1 had 4 people working on the team, so how come X Defiant, which had more players, or not more players, but had more people had more people working on it and not deliver it?
Yeah.
But another thing you gotta realize is that these AAA games have a lot of companies working on it at the same time. So I don't think it was Ubisoft. I don't know, because if it wasn't Ubisoft, they wouldn't need permission from those third-party companies. Number one, this game should have came out when it was ready. This game did not release when it was ready. When it first came out, the matchmaking was broken. Okay, let's talk, Bryce. When the matchmaking was out, when XDefiant came out, the matchmaking was broken.
Yeah.
It was broken. No one can find a game. No one can find a game. So what happened was they had to patch the game, and then people can finally get in the match. And then what happened? People had netcode problems. I didn't let it bother me, but a lot of people did let it bother them. So they spent the entire game's life cycle trying to fix the netcode. So I'm like, they really must not have time to finish and complete the game correctly. And then I heard that they were gonna have infection. So once Halloween 2024 came out, where was infection? Bro, when the game, infection wasn't even on a single playlist. It wasn't even on a playlist. It was that bad. Was infection not complete? So it makes you wonder, I have a feeling they didn't have time to complete the game. And that's exactly why XDefiant lit into the abyss it was today. Were they trying to find more players? Who knows? Mark Rubin, if you can hear me, talk to me. Or I'll have you on one of these podcasts. Was it that you guys didn't have enough players? Or was it that you guys were focusing on one thing? But I literally said to you guys, if you guys add a map editor or a file share, which is what Splitgate did, props to you, 1047. But what I literally said is exactly what happened. So I said, if you guys have a map editor and file share, you guys will not run out of content. And look, people enjoy playing Splitgate 1 map. Not Splitgate 1 maps. Enjoy playing creative maps. Those little montages you see on Twitter, they're all playing creative maps. And that's exactly what I said during the first podcast. Splitgate is doing what XDefiant should have done. They did it the first game. They're doing it again, and they're taking it to another level. So this is more of comparing XDefiant at the time to Splitgate and how much accurate or active Splitgate was. But then you guys can make the argument and say, well, Splitgate 1 had 4 guys, or XDefiant had a small team. Splitgate also had a small team as well, and they made do with what they had. They just didn't have the amount of problems. I don't know what engine Splitgate used. Was it the engine or was it the shortage? Nobody knows. And that was the problem with XDefiant. XDefiant just, not only was it just, it wasn't overpromised and underdelivered. It was just they were having problems with delivering the content. So my thing is, you should have worked on, let's forge our own content until our new content. Now, not saying that you don't make new content ever again, but we can have something to do while you are struggling with that. We can make our own version of Search and Destroy. And I'll let Bryce take over for now, or we can just talk. So what are your, what do you think?
I agree with what you said. Like I mentioned before, I don't really have anything else to say about XDefiant. XDefiant is done. It's dead. That's just call it like we see it. It's dead.
Yeah,
unless somebody find all 7 Dragon Balls and then action round to bring it back to life, it's gone.
Well, I have one on my bookshelf.
All right, then we need 6 more. But let's talk about a game that's alive and well, that's still breathing, and that's not 6 feet under the ground. And that game is Splitgate 2. I like the game. I think the game is very fun. I like how they have classes in the game now, as opposed to the first game. In the beta, I think the DMRs really sucked in the beta, in my opinion. But once the full game came out after Summer Game Fest, the DMRs felt a lot better. And I'm like, whoa, okay, I could definitely feel a difference. And then you said they buffed it, right?
Yeah, I think they increased the fire rate or something, or the damage output.
Yeah, there was definitely a noticeable difference for me. But I like the game. I use Sabrask a lot. I like his DMR, his AR. I think he has the best assault rifle in the game. You can argue with me in the comments. He has the best assault rifle in the game. I don't care what nobody says.
Meridian got the best SMG in the game.
Yeah, Meridian's broke. Meridian is still broken after all these updates.
I think we could talk about balance if we want to.
Well, I don't really know enough about the game to talk about
yes,
balance.
yes,
so,
you do.
I mean, I guess you could take the floor on that.
No, yes, you do. You know all about the balance of the game.
I mean,
like
I'm not good enough in the game to distinguish what's broken and what's bad.
At least you admit it.
Such a child. So, what were you gonna say?
Okay, so Meridian needed. My biggest problems with Splitgate 2 were the balancing things. So, in the beta, I don't care what anyone says. Meridian was the meta in the beta. So, literally, everyone chose her, and she had. So, here's what happened. Arrows and Sabras has the slowest gameplay out of everyone, right? Mm-hmm. Talk to me. Sabras had the slowest gameplay out of everyone in the whole game.
Yeah, I mean, he was supposed to because he's a tank.
Yeah, but in a fast game like Splitgate, it's not going to work like that. Remember AWOL from Titanfall 2?
Yeah.
That's what Sabrask is. Sabrask was AWOL. And I criticize people for using that, which, okay, you have a right. You have a right to use whoever you want. Don't let me or don't let Bryce ever say, oh, if you use this, you deserve to fall in a volcano. No. When I say this, I mean, like, you're playing a fast game like Titanfall or Splitgate, and you're deciding to just sit in the corner and just like camp it out. I don't know how it works, but they gotta figure out how to make that work in a way. But fact of the matter is, we're talking about Meridian. Meridian was the only class in that whole entire beta. Had the fastest AR, it did a lot of damage, and it was really decent at range. And then once they started leveling up, Meridian also had an SMG that made it to where you don't have to aim correctly. So what that did was they had to do a leveling up system. And once the leveling up system came, we saw less and less Meridians. We still see Meridians to this day, not as frequently as the beta.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's, well, the last time I played, when it came to the best and the worst, I would say it's probably between, obviously, Meridian, as Jaden just explained. It's Meridian. What's the purple one name, or not the purple one with the pink arrows? Meridian, Arrows, Sabras, right?
I think Arrows. I have a feeling Arrows got nerfed.
How did he get nerfed? Or how did he get nerfed?
Because the Sprinter doesn't feel like the SMG he had. It feels less powerful than the beta.
Okay. That's fair. I mean, I used Arrows when the game came out after Summer Game Fest. I used the DMR, and I'm like, oh, okay, that's where I found out it was different. I think his DMR is called Cadence or something like that.
Cadence or whatever.
Cadence, yeah. I used that, and I'm like, okay, it's different. This definitely feels different from before. Because I feel like the DMR was like, it was shooting Nerf bullets. Like, it wasn't killing anybody, in my opinion.
No. It's not that it wasn't killing anybody. It's just why I kept telling you this. Why am I playing a game where I have to work and aim to get a kill while my enemy can just, press the trigger and be mindless Halo grunts and just get a kill without even the thought process of aiming. the thought process of aiming. So what they had to do was that they had to rework the DMRs. You might not remember, or this might be like your first Splitgate ever, but Splitgate Arena Warfare. So you have the Splitgate 1 that we have now, and then you have Splitgate Arena Warfare. Splitgate Arena Warfare was a completely different game from Splitgate 1. Can we agree with that?
Yeah.
What they did was that they added it was one of those patches, I think it was a summer patch. They made it to where the pistol's fire rate was different.
Yeah, I didn't like that.
The pistol, everyone used the pistol. And the assault rifle was the most underpowered weapon. it wasn't trash, but the pistol, like Halo Combat Evolved, it made the assault rifle garbage. So what did they do? They made the carbine, which is, in my opinion, a weaker version of the Splitgate Arena Warfare pistol. And fast forward to Splitgate 1, which came out, the assault rifle was dominant, and the DMR, it was no longer a point, or it was no longer a, it became an arcade shooter.
Yeah.
So, in Splitgate 1, they were like, you know what, screw that concept, we're gonna add classes to Splitgate 2. We're gonna add classes and perks. And what this did was, it now became Call of Duty with Halo-style gameplay.
Yeah, and, you know, with Splitgate 2 coming out, and,
it's
you
out.
know, yeah, it's out, but with Splitgate 2 coming out, and the mission statement, and I quote, "Make FPS great again." I mean, I'm not trying to get political or anything like that, but I just think the irony of coming out with a make FPS great again hat on, and then announcing a battle royale, you know, as if you're going to announce something different and innovative. I think he didn't really stick the landing on that, but I understand what the devs are going for. The guy was trying to he was actually trying to put a message across that wasn't political, but people took it the wrong way because it was obviously a MAGA thing, right?
Yeah, if you follow politics, then you know what that means.
Yeah, so I see what he was trying to do, but then again, he didn't stick the landing, so the execution wasn't really there. But I like how committed 1047 is to making the game, you know, the best it could be. You know, they're listening to feedback. You know, if we express our concerns in this podcast, or, you know, you express your concerns in the comments, they'll listen. They're definitely not one-sided, from what I understand.
They definitely listen to me, because they everything I asked for, like my thoughts and opinions about Splitgate 2, they literally just put in the next patch.
See, there you go.
So, what we're going to talk about now is... Oh, actually, no. It's not that we're going to talk about now, but... When he said make FPS great again, he's talking about bringing back the experience we all felt back then. So, to me, Black Ops 3 was the last game that actually felt like a true FPS game we can all sit down and play for hours. So, Black Ops 3 at the time wasn't received well, but over time, it grew a lot of appreciation. And then what happened? They tried so hard to be better than Black Ops 3 when Black Ops 4 came out. Fail. I mean, people change when they retrospective, you know? When they go retrospective, now they all change. Oh, I respect this. When Black Ops 4 came out, it was considered to be one of, if not the worst Call of Duty games of all time.
Yeah.
So, however, we can all appreciate what Black Ops 4 did with Call of Duty now. Was add Battle Royale, which in itself was taken from Fortnite. But Fortnite took from PUBG. It took from PUBG. Because it's another rabbit hole, but I'm going to give you that. So Fortnite came out with Save the World, which was the PvE, survival mode, right? Mm-hmm. Oh, look! It came out with the PvE survival mode, and then they realized it wasn't generating enough money. They saw PUBG. They made a battle royale. It gained a lot of popularity. They kept adding skins, cool emotes, a lot of iconic things, and then they made it the gameplay loop fun.
Yeah.
That's something I said on the first podcast that a lot of devs nowadays struggle with. Is the gameplay loop is not addicting. It's very shallow. What's wrong with you?
I'm listening to you.
When people stop playing these games, it's more that the gameplay loop is not entertaining enough. Fortnite is randomized. You can have any experience you like, but as long as you're getting the number one victory royale, it's going to get fun. That's what made battle royales fun. And then it got a little stale, and then it got, it wasn't good. I respect them for putting a battle royale in, but fact of the matter is they're all dying. Like, we're not seeing a renaissance of battle royales. We're seeing a renaissance in boomer shooters.
Yeah.
Not battle royales. Because that's what made FPS games. What do you got to say about Splitgate 2 also?
Other than what I said before, nothing much. I mean, if you like Halo and then you like shooting games, you like Splitgate. I really enjoyed the first game and I'm enjoying this one. The Battle Royale, I haven't played enough about it to really speak on it. I mean, I only played like 1 or 2 matches, but that's about it. I'll say that I think the game does have a pretty bright future ahead of it. If you look at the Splitgate 1 tournaments and how much was in that prize pool, they were playing for like $250,000. So 1047, they definitely have money. You know what I'm saying? Like they're not like, it's just some indie devs that are taking a chance on the game. They were when the first game came out.
No. They still are indie devs. They just have heavy hitters.
That's what I'm saying. Like they're indie devs still, but they have money now because of the success of the first game. So, like I said, I think the game has a very bright future. And yeah, we'll see what happens with it.
I mean, to be fair, Splitgate did die at one point, and then the Splitgate Arena Warfare is a dead game. Splitgate 1 came out, and it was a reboot.
Yeah.
It was a reboot of the franchise, and they got more people into it. Because they were marketing it as a new game. Because that was the first time Splitgate ever came to console. And we're going to talk about monetization now. Here's where the video might get loud. And I want you to turn your volume down. I don't have a problem with spending $20 on split coins and buying monetization, but when you say make FPS great again and come out with a pack that's we cut the price of 10,000 split coins, and so you're saying we come out with a bundle that's 10,000 split coins, you cut the price to 8,000. 8,000. How are you going to say make FPS games great again when you take the number one thing that people hate most about FPS games? I'm looking at you, COD. We take most about and you make it worse. So as I said before, Black Ops 6 is a huge it's a defender against this. Right? Black Ops 6 come on, let's talk about monetization. Come on.
I'm listening.
So is a huge defender of this problem. You're charging us to buy skins. I understand you're a money making business, but I understand that you cut the price. That's props to you. Ooh, you're right. I understand that you cut the price, but it makes you wonder, like, as the audience, it makes you wonder, like, are they gonna put more? What can they possibly put else that's even worse than that? Because, now these gamer companies get ideas of, like, oh, now let's add skins that are, like, as much as a car. Because, remember, like, games are now costing $80. And it's not, and I don't know, I don't believe it, how, like, it costs more money to make. I don't believe in any of that crap, because, games cost a lot of money to make, like, during, like, the Xbox 360 PS3 era, yet they were still at an affordable price. You hear me?
Yeah.
So I don't believe in any of that, what Mr. Iwata said. I don't believe that, because he said these games cost more money to make, so we're just gonna keep upping the price. They cost more to make, because clearly, if it was Titanfall 2 is another great example. The game probably had, here, you know what? But let's look up this on Gemini.
What are you looking up?
How much money did Titanfall 2 cost to make?
The exact development cost of Titanfall 2 hasn't been officially disclosed.
Okay, it hasn't. But All right, 50 million and 80 million to make as of 2020. So, and let's look at the game on Steam. Bryce, go on Google. Look at the game on Steam.
Titanfall 2?
Yes. How much does it cost on Steam? Go.
Well, now it's 85% off, but that's because it's on sale. But
the
base price of Titanfall 2 back then when it first came out, I remember it being $60.
It was $60? I thought it was like 20.
No, it was $60.
What? Let me see. Let's look at this.
So Titanfall 2 was $60 at launch, but over time,
yeah, Titanfall 2 is a very good example of this. It's a very, 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 very good example of how to handle a business right, and how to handle the gaming industry right, and how do you treat your developers with care. Developers and community with care, and that's what I mean. Okay, so it's $450. The game costs $50 million to make, so when you look at a price like that, more people are willing to buy it. It's not about it's not about how you price it. It's about the way you spend it. So if I go like, oh, look at this, I put $100 on that because it's $100, I'm expecting to get more money. No, the way how it works. It might be, I don't know if it has anything to do with inflation or anything or something like that. I don't really know, but this is how I would do it if I ever start selling things. Make an affordable price. Like $20-$15. So people are more likely to buy your product over the one that's very expensive. Would you want to buy an apple for $2, or would you want to buy it for $20? And mind you, I'm talking about individual apples. I'm not talking about a stack of apples. Now, more people will want to buy the same product for less cheaper than the one that's more expensive. And what happens is that more money goes to the guy who's spending it for $2. That is something that I don't think any game developer understands at the very moment. Alright.
And what else?
What are your rights with the game? I don't know.
Wait, Splitgate?
I guess, yeah.
My gripes.
Yeah.
My gripes with Splitgate 2. The game is mad sweaty. Let's put it that way. If you're just getting off work, you trying to have fun after a long 8 hours of your shift, and you turn on your PlayStation, PC, Xbox, whatever, you want to play Splitgate, do not play ranked. Or no, just don't expect to have a good time after a long day at work, because you probably will run into sweaty players. I know I said ranked, but they said that they're going to add ranked soon. But when that time comes, if you're just trying to have a good time, play casual match. I'm telling you, like, these people are sweaty. I mean, you'll have, like, one good game, and then out of nowhere, like, you'll just run into a bunch of sweats. So that leads me to believe that this game might have skill-based matchmaking, if you care about that sort of thing. But, you know, that's just my thing about it, is, like, I think it's a little bit too sweaty. You know, it has, like, I believe it has SBMM in it. But my overall gripes with the system mechanics, I don't really have any gripes so far. I mean, like I said, I don't really play the game enough to, like, have any gripes with it. But for me, I'm still, like, in the honeymoon phase, so to speak. You know,
a lot of people. I'm sorry, Bruce, but a lot of people are saying, like, a lot of people are disappointed now with Splitgate 2. So it's like, I think the honeymoon phase kind of ended.
Not for me. You know, like I said, they play the game on the regular. I just play it, like, whenever. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't play it day in and day out. But I remember in Splitgate 1, you had 2 different buttons for Portal 1, Portal 2, close Portal 1, close Portal 2. So there were, like, 4 buttons for that, but now they have it under one button. I don't have an issue with that. I know people hate that, but I like that because it doesn't require you to map all these buttons to do like a variant button. Yeah, like a variant.
Oh, yeah, 1047. I'm sorry, Bryce, again. I forget about that, but I'm glad that you added a classic Portals feature. Thank you so much for adding something like that.
Yeah, but other than that, I don't think I have anything else to say about Splitgate other than play the game if you're interested.
We can talk about like the concept of skill-based matchmaking for like FPS shooters. Remember, it is called multipodcast.
All right, I think that'll be the last topic. The SBMM concept and why it's not good.
Here, I'll go.
So you go first, Jane, because you obviously have a stronger opinion than I do on that.
Okay. Number 1. Turn the volume down once again because it might get loud. So, skill-based matchmaking has to be the worst thing ever added in FPS games. And it's not just me saying this. Most of your content creators that you see on YouTube complain about this. I don't understand why these developers constantly think that the average consumer is a competitive player. It might be cool, but why would you go through the effort of putting a ranked playlist in your game that's supposed to have skill-based matchmaking? Ranked play is meant to be played if you want to be better. The game doesn't force you to. And there's actual people, I can't believe it, but there's actual people on this planet who like skill-based matchmaking. Bryce?
I like it.
So...
Oh, I thought you were saying that as if I like it.
So my thing is, skill-based matchmaking. How old first-person shooters game, how old FPS games work. You got into a match. It might be good. It might be bad. It might be sweaty. It might be mixed. It might be rough. It might be everything. The point here was that you got better if you felt like it. And the more you played, the more it felt like you were getting better at the game. Now, with skill-based matchmaking, it forces you to play a way you don't want to. This is not a good thing in video games. And it might work for fighting games, Bryce.
Yeah.
It might work. It kind of works for fighting games. So, Mortal Kombat, for example, Combat League, you're gonna, like, if you hit a Grandmaster, you're gonna fight Grandmaster players. If you hit Elder guys, you're gonna fight. Is Demigod like lower than Elder God?
Yeah.
Okay, so
it's Demigod.
So if you're like Elder God, you're gonna fight like Demigod God. Or like even better Elder Gods. And the same thing with Sparking Zero. If you're Z rank, you can possibly go up against S or other Z ranks. Now, what both of those things I said came from ranked. But ranked is supposed to have skill-based matchmaking. Casual matches are supposed to be fun. It's either what I just said. You either get a good game, get a bad game, get a mixed game. But when you're constantly playing the game, it takes out the gameplay loop. See, we're back on the gameplay loop discussion, Bryce.
Yeah.
The gameplay loop was addicting because every game was unpredictable. When you know how every game's gonna play, it takes the enjoyability factor away, and the gameplay loop gets stale. You listening? It gets stale. When you know how every game's gonna play, you don't want to play it anymore. That's why people quit video games now. Nobody quit video games back then. We were all playing, and it was fun to play. Yo, you want to hop on? Yeah, sure, I'll hop on, and we can play till like 3 a.m. I think it's funny. You think it's funny. It's not funny. It's like, what happened? So, what game can we talk about? Halo. Halo is objectively a sweaty game, but when you know how to play it, you go like, oh wait, maybe this game wasn't sweaty after all. It's just how the game is meant to be played. And that's what I was trying to say in the very first podcast, the xdepodcast, which is now rebranded to the multipodcast. What I was trying to say was, most of the guys who played it and didn't play the game how it was meant to be played. So that's why some people were complaining that, oh, why can't we camp in this game? You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. When you're playing the game how it's meant to be played, you go like, oh, maybe it wasn't a sweaty game after all. Maybe it was just me not playing the game correctly. Just because you play a game of Halo, just because you're in a BR playing Halo or play Slayer BR doesn't mean you're guaranteed, and you play casual matches, you play casual Slayer BR, doesn't mean that you're immune to strafing in a fight. Okay? It doesn't mean you're immune to that. Why are you laughing at me?
Because you funny, Jay.
No, because that's the truth. And that's the same thing with jumping in X-Defiant. Now let's nail this down, Bryce. Come on. Let's nail this down. Now, I'm sorry, Bryce. You're crazy, but let's nail this down. Imagine. Now, imagine for a second that every game of Splitgate, you couldn't use portals. And portals were the way how the game was meant to be played. Would you want to play Call of Duty without kill streaks?
No.
Why?
Because it's not the way the game is meant to be played.
No, because it would be boring. Nobody wants to play a boring game in the year 2025. Nobody wants that. Bryce, this is why the games are dying. It's all a part of the gameplay loop. It's all a part of the everything I'm saying, no pun intended, comes down to the gameplay loop. It's not fun. Would you want to play Mortal Kombat with only jump kicks?
No.
Would you want to play a fighting game with no special moves?
No.
Why?
Because it wouldn't be fun. But let me ask
Listen,
you,
that's exactly what I'm talking about. But no.
What would that look like to a
My point here is that we're in the year 2025 and y'all still want to play the same exact boring game. I respect XDefiant's movement because it was something different we never saw in a game that wasn't trying to be a movement shooter. I thought XDefiant had extremely well movement when you constantly keep nerfing it down. And yeah, we can talk about, there's another thing we talk about XDefiant that I never brought up in the last podcast. When you constantly keep on nerfing something and it gets to the point where it's unusable, people at the launch of XDefiant are like, yo, keep nerfing the jumping, keep nerfing the jumping, keep nerfing the jumping, keep nerfing the jumping. When they nerfed it 2 times in a row, people got worried. They were like, yo, I feel like this game's going to have no skill gap anymore. You weren't saying that when... Okay, so maybe it did need a couple of adjustments because, that one clip where you saw the guy literally strafing in the air. But he did the right thing, though. It wasn't his fault that the guy couldn't... It wasn't his fault that the guy couldn't get shot at. It was just... He did the right thing. And he played the game correctly. So, Bryce, what do you have to say in terms of skill gap?
For XDefiant?
For gaming in general, and the gameplay loop. Because it all narrows down to the gameplay loop and the skill gap. The skill gap is also another thing that players want to keep playing. When there's no skill gap and nothing to aim for, why would you keep playing?
See, in fighting games, that's what you have a ranking system. So in Street Fighter 5 and now 6, you have rookie, bronze, silver, gold, platinum, diamond, master, yada, 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 right? See, that's why those games have tiers. So that way, if you're not a good player, they have something called qualification matches. So you play about 10 matches or so. And then depending on how long you win or how your win rate is, you get placed in whatever tier the game thinks you're at. So you start from there, right? You know, you win 10 matches with Ryu, they're probably gonna put you in diamond rank, right? But if you lose 10, you're probably gonna get sent to rookie. So fighting games, it works, I understand, but for shooting games, it doesn't work. But you gotta realize something, because when you have casuals, you know, casuals, they don't really care. They just want to jump in and play the game. And, you know, but for a competitive player, they do care. They want to play stronger opponents so they can get better.
Casuals will want to be the top. Here's the thing. Casuals will want to be the top player, and they better do it. Here's the thing. Here, look, I'm sorry, man. But casuals will always want to take the simplest way to the top. That's all. Yeah. That's all they want to do. That's exactly why. Now imagine, Bryce. This goes back down to the gameplay loop and skill gap. Mm-hmm. Imagine in Splitgate there were no portals, even though there is a game mode. But imagine there was Titanfall without the wall running. Yeah. Could you imagine that? Look at me. Could you imagine Titanfall without wall running? No. Imagine how boring and average the game would be. Imagine Halo without... what can we imagine Halo without?
Jumping.
Imagine Halo play like Call of Duty. It was a run and gun shooter.
Yeah, that would be kind of wild.
It would be the most cursed game ever. Now, casuals will want to cherry pick their way to the top. And what I mean by cherry picking, I mean they will do the least amount of things possible to be the best. Yeah. And if it doesn't go their way, the game is garbage. And this goes and ties in with xDepod. They don't want to know how to counter against the jumping and strafing. So what did Ubisoft do, or what did Mark Rubin and the bouncing team do? They nerfed it to the ground so those guys can get like an upper head. That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't think there's really such a thing called skill gap anymore in these video games, because everything gets nerfed to the ground for these competitive players to, get or these casuals to get the top. And what this does is that it screws up with the learning curve. Like, why would I learn? Why? Now, you want to know why this is a problem?
Why?
Get closer.
Why is it a problem?
Why would I spend time trying to get better at the game if I have the developers spoon-feeding me, like, an advantage? Yeah. Think about it. Why would I spend time trying to be... Why would I spend time trying to, like, learn gunfights in Halo if there's a setting for casuals to turn on that has aimbot on it? What's the point in strafing? Why would I want to learn how to do wall running in Titanfall if there's an ability that can help them make or correct their every mistake? Yeah, Mario Kart World. So, really, my biggest issue is that I feel like the skill gap is starting to get a little dim. Like Fortnite, for example, they just added a feature called Simple Edit. You know what Simple Edit is?
Where you just make buildings around.
No, it's a feature where you only have to tap a button in order to edit. Now, who was that made for? Casuals. It was literally made for them.
Yeah, accessibility has always been an issue in games for almost the past decade now.
Yeah, but what we're talking about is the learning curve. The learning curve, in my opinion, is just complete shallow in these newer games. And that's my problem with this. And then they always want to complain, exploits. Yet those are the same, majority of the time, those are the same guys who go crazy when they hit the top. And in my opinion, it would be even crazier if you understood what that was. Now, obviously, I'm not tuning my own horn. Bryce isn't tuning his own horn. This is just the problem that we're facing and the issues that, and like why these newer games aren't hitting the same. And Splitgate, I'm very happy that like your devs are like promoting this whole skill thing, this whole skill gap, because I hope that listen, because I know you guys watch my videos 100%. I can tell, but please, for the love of God, do not let these guys learn how to play the game correctly. Let these guys know how to play the game correctly. If they don't know, then that's a problem. Because you're advertising the portals and how you can do all these crazy things about them, and they're not easy to do, but people will want to learn how to do them. That's nice. That's what xDepodcast should have did about gunfights. That's what Fortnite should have did. Fortnite still advertises, camping in buildings. Like, bro, it's 2025. We're it's not 2017 no more. Like, I don't know, people like we all complain about sweats in Fortnite, but it's crazy how they're still advertising, like, making forts. Like, the name Fortnite kind of aged really poorly if you think about it.
Yeah.
Like, you think 90s are forts? You think box fights? We're making forts and we're box fighting in forts?
No.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, all right. I think that puts a lid on the podcast, right? We're going to seal the deal right here.
Yeah.
We reached the 46-minute mark, almost 47 minutes.
Is there anything you want to, like, plug in?
Nothing really. I mean, follow me on Twitter. Follow me on Instagram, everything. I basically have everything except TikTok.
Okay.
So that's all I got to say.
So we got one more podcast about xDepodcast, and this time I'm gonna let you guys decide. Would you guys want to join the podcast, or would you guys not want to? If you guys want to join the podcast, DM me on Twitter, and I'll be more than happy to allow you on the podcast with it. But here's the kicker: I'm gonna select a few randoms, so don't get discouraged if I don't pick you. But I'm going to select random people to be in the podcast. And in fact, if any developers want to be in the podcast, I'll be more than happy to allow that too. But yeah, I'm JBrown03.
This is Superior Bryce.
And this is the case closed of the multipodcast episode 2. Take care, everyone.
See ya.